The question tonight, which is worse? Gradually becoming more handsome or your pants slowly filling with peanut butter? We go to our on-the-scenes correspondents for the answer. Brian, handsome.
I mean, it's just horrible, Russ. People don't value you for your opinions anymore. They only look at you like a piece of meat. I mean, I got cat calls on the street earlier today.
Kevin, pants.
Well, Russ, I certainly wouldn't say it's comfortable. In fact, it's quite a strange feeling. I've never really felt anything like this before. I don't know how I feel about it. Oh, okay. It just keeps coming, doesn't it?
Back to you, Brian.
It's getting worse, Russ. I had to hire a third agent just to handle all the lucrative modeling contracts that have been offered to me. This is my hell.
Kevin, your rebuttal. Any final thoughts, Brian?
I'm good.
Kevin, you have the last word.
Why is it crunchy? Oh. Back to you, Russ.
Well, there you have it, folks. We bring you the facts. You decide. I'm Russell D. Jones with D6MBC News. Coming up next, the D6 Mafia review of Jetpack Unicorn. Jetpack Unicorn is the ultimate game of debate, where players are asked questions they never wanted the answers to. Now, the game is very simple, it's very easy to teach, players can pick it up right away, and the games can be as long or as short as you want them. So let's jump in. First thing you want to do is decide how many rounds you want to play. Now the game comes with these convenient round indicator cards that you use to keep track of the rounds, or you can just play until you decide the game isn't fun anymore. Now to start off, each player is going to draw 3 transmog cards. These are going to be used in the debates, and we're going to get to them in just a minute. Next, you need to decide who is going first. Now, the first player is the last person to have seen a unicorn. Pay no attention to the unicorn on the front of the box. Once that player is chosen, then they become the judge and will draw the first scenario card. The scenarios are what is cooler, what is weirder, and what is worse. This one is what is weirder. A happy relationship with a honey badger or a rocky codependent relationship with a stuffed giraffe. Now, once the question is posed, then the two players, the player to the left and the player to the right of the judge, are going to have the debate with the arrow on the card indicating who is getting which part of the question. The judge can offer other questions to them to help kind of coax answers out of them and ultimately decide who is the winner. Now, the players having debate have these transmog cards that they have drawn. And the transmog cards have a bunch of different words or phrases printed on each of them. They will choose one of these cards with a word or phrase and place it down. They must then attempt to use this word or phrase in their debate. This leads to hilarious situations because, of course, you've got these ridiculous comparisons, and now you're having to put in these ridiculous phrases into your debate somehow. And then when, after the players go at it a bit, the judge renders their verdict, declaring one player the winner, and that player will keep their transmog card and the point value that is printed on it, and then the other player will just discard their transmog card. At that point, judgment passes to the player on the left. That player then draws a scenario card and a new debate is struck. And that's basically the entire game in a nutshell. Like I said, it was pretty simple. So, what do we think about it? Well, what it does very well is it gets people laughing. As I said before, ridiculous situations, scenarios and questions with the ridiculous, really arbitrary phrases and words printed on the transmog cards really gets the whole group laughing. I mean, it can be a very fun party game, particularly in the first early rounds. However, we did feel that the novelty started to wear off a little bit after a while. Some of the problems we saw with the game does suggest that players move around, and this is a really good thing because our first playthrough, we didn't have anybody move around, and we found that some of the couples may have been showing a little bit of favoritism to their significant others. Yes, which, you know, if you're just there to have fun, why, you know, worry about that? But the major problem that we found with the game is in the transmog cards themselves. Like I said before, the phrases and the words on them are pretty arbitrary. They're point values from 1 to 5, and we don't feel that the 1 point value cards are really any more difficult to play than, say, the 4 or 5 point cards. For example, here, my 1 point card is a magazine for teen girls. The number 2 point card is world's largest ball of yarn. Pretty weird stuff to try to work into your debate. The high point stuff, 4 points, a grumpy massage therapist, and 5 is your dark fantasy. No more difficult, no more easy to work into your debate in the first case. However, none of that really even matters, because even though you keep these phrases a secret and try to work them into your debate, there's no mechanism for, say, guessing your opponent's word or having other players guess it. It just doesn't come into the game at all. And we find that this is a real opportunity lost by the game designers. You could always have the losing player try to guess the winning player's phrase, and if they guess it, then maybe, you know, they get their points too, or maybe they get the same points as their opponent got. Something that makes these phrases and points sort of mean something. You know, have the 5 point ones be really difficult, so you're really risking something if you try to work it into your debate, while having the 1 and 2 point ones really easy, really common, and so very difficult for your opponent to guess. So it's sort of, you got to balance sort of the risk factor. The way it stands now is, you know, you're always going to pick the highest point card in your hand and just put it in. You could even just toss it in, you know, higgledy-piggledy right at the end of the sentence. You know, it doesn't matter. As long as you say it, you get the points. And we just think that's a huge flaw in the game. I mean, we don't know why this thing wasn't addressed. At this rate, the game would have been much better to just skip all the points altogether and have all the cards basically be worth 1 point, or you simply just keep your card at the end of the round if you won, and you just go one at a time if you're not going to make the 1s and 5s really any different. So, you know, the other problem we sort of found that if a player is not particularly good at debate or doesn't really enjoy arguments, they're not going to quite have as much fun as the other players. They're going to end up really losing, you know, most of their debates, and that's not really any fun for them. So that was really a problem. If not all the players are really into it, the game's just not going to be that great. There are other party games out there that really include everybody, and you don't have to participate as much as the next person, and you can still have fun and enjoy being in a group. With this one, you know, not really so much. So, if you really like debate games, arguments, and you know, money isn't an object, then just add this to your collection. No big deal. You can bust it out every once in a while. You'll get a few good laughs in the first rounds with the ridiculousness. But other than that, you know, we have a hard time recommending this game with the glaring problems, particularly in the transmog cards. It hasn't seen our table very much, and it's going to be a while before it sees it again. So that about wraps up our review of Jetpack Unicorn. I'm Russ D. Jones with D6 Mafia. Thanks for watching.